The tone curve it's kind of like curves inside of Photoshop. The first thing that I would kind of suggest that you do when you get to the tone curve, it's the second panel over here, is get away from the parametric part of the curve. Okay, go over here to the point curve, because they both it doesn't give you a different look. All the parametric side does is just kind of limit you on what you can do. You can change your highlights, your lights, your darks, your shadows. But honestly, the best way to do this is to come over here to the point curve. Really what we're looking for here is to kind of add some extra contrast to the photo. Okay, contrast beyond the way that we can get using the sliders over here, but to just come over to the tone curve. And what we use curves for a lot of times inside Photoshop is just that classic little S curve where you take the highlight side, which is the right side over here. If you think of it, if you think of this histogram over here, okay? Here's your darks and your shadows. Here's your brighter stuff and your highlights over here. Is to take the highlight portion of that and you drag that up a little bit. And then you take the darks or the shadow portion and you drag it down a little bit. Okay, if you look at the general shape of the curve, it's got an S type of a shape to it. Now, it's not a real S like that, but if you just kind of look at the shape, it's got a little bit of an S. But that's all that lets you do is the highlights let me come in here and kind of just punch a little bit more contrast up toward the highlights, and the same thing with the shadows. What's nice about the curve is that where contrast doesn't really give you the choice between highlights and shadows, I can come over here to the tone curve and I can say, okay, let's kind of punch up those highlights a little bit, but maybe not so much on the shadow side. Or maybe I do the shadows a little bit more, but maybe not so much on the highlight side. Okay, so you're able to kind of come in there and control which one you want. And then I can come over here and say, really just punch up the highlights, not so much the midtones. Because as I get toward here, just remember, dark stuff, bright stuff. This is right in the middle. This is the midtone. So when I get over here, this is kind of doing the whole photo. So I just want to restrict it really to just the highlights and the shadows. If you click on the preview, remember what preview does. Preview doesn't give you a before and after of everything you did in Camera Raw. Preview just gives you a before and after of that panel. So I'm on the tone curve panel so I can see before the tone curve, after. See, before, after. So you just kind of just adds a little bit more snap to everything. Now, one of the new things they did add inside of Photoshop CS6 is you can change your curve based on the channel. Okay, this makes it even more like Photoshop curves where I can base it on the red, the green, or the blue channel. So if I had a specific color problem in a specific channel, like the reds, okay, I could come over here to the red channel, and as I drag that part of the curve up, it makes everything more red. If I start to drag it down, it counteracts. It's almost like, look what you got over here. These are competing colors, right? The more red I get, the less green. The more green I get on this side, the less red. They're neutralizing each other. Same thing happens over here with the tone curve. This is advanced stuff, guys, okay? If you're getting to this part of it, 99% of the people really don't need to change their curve based on color channels, okay? This is really getting into more advanced curves. But you can come over here, and I can kind of pull that down, add a little bit more green to the photo, or bring it up, add a little bit more red. And again, that's just going to work on the reds and the greens in the photo, not necessarily all of the different colors here, which is what you get when you're just working on that RGB composite channel. Same thing. Greens adds more green, takes it away, which is going to give you magenta, which is kind of counteracting that. Come down here to blue, adds more blue, or yellow, which is the opposite, so it's going to add more yellow to the photo. So if you go up, it adds more of whatever color channel you've chosen here. If you go down, it kind of subtracts or neutralizes whatever color channel you chose there. Okay? Again, back here to the RGB channel, 99% of the time, all you're going to do when you come over here to this point curve is maybe just drag the highlights up a little, drag the shadows down a little. Even better, you can use the presets. You've got linear, you've got medium contrast, and you've got strong contrast. And they pretty much do it all for you. And really, that's probably the extent of which I use the tone curve. As I'll come over here, I'll look at that, and then if I need to, maybe come in here and tweak the little points a little bit on here. But most of the time, I just choose one of the presets, and it just gives you a very easy way to add a little bit more of that contrast, a little bit more of that snap to the overall photo.